When I was preparing this message, I was thinking, what is the thing we struggle with the most? What is the hardest command that Jesus gave us? And the only thing I could think of is, am I really supposed to love my enemy? Obviously, the answer is yes. And before I go into the message, if you struggle with this, you're in great company. Me, a pastor, struggles with this. The elders of the church struggle with this. The kids of the church struggle with this. Jesus gave the command and he knew it would be hard. But today we're going to talk about some of the things he told us to do to love our enemy, to help loving our enemy. Late one summer, during the evening in Nebraska, a weary truck driver came to a diner and he ordered some eggs and toast and some coffee. And he sits down and the food is delivered to him at his table. And just right then and there, 3 bikers come in the door. You know, the type of bikers that are like Hell's Angels type of bikers. And one goes up and grabs his eggs. The other one grabs his toast. The other one grabs his coffee, and they all just help themselves. The trucker gets up and takes his ticket and puts the cash on the cash register and walks out the door. And the guys laugh and they say, "Oh, he's not much of a man." And the waiter goes to the door and says, "Well, he's not much of a truck driver either. He just ran over 3 motorcycles." You know, Jesus tells us to love our enemies, but that story right there feels right. It feels like he got justice. And so many times in our life, we want justice. If someone does us wrong, we want to get that sweet revenge. Now, my question to you is, how are you going to respond to people like the bikers in that story? Jesus answers that question for us today. Luke 6:27-31. "But I say unto you which hear, love your enemies, do good to them which hate you. Bless them that curse you, and pray for them which despitefully use you. And unto him that smiteth thee on one cheek, offer also the other, and him that taketh away thy cloak, forbid not to take thy coat also. Give to every man that asketh of thee, and of him that taketh away thy goods, ask them not again. And as ye would that men should do to you, do ye also to them likewise." Who thinks that's easy? Who thinks, oh, piece of cake, you know? We're going to break this down, and we're going to look at 3 keys that God or Jesus tells us on how to obtain this. First one, do good to those who hate you. Verse 27, "But I say unto you which hear, love your enemy, do good to them which hate you." I don't think it's too hard to imagine that this teaching was totally foreign to society back in the day. It's even foreign to the society here right now. We see on TV, we see in books we read, that revenge is great. Revenge is sweet, as I said. But if we go back to the days that Jesus was teaching us, we have to look at what the rabbis were teaching at the time. And they were teaching you should love thy neighbor and hate your enemy. And quite honestly, that makes sense to me. Why should I love someone who is disrespectful to me, who hates me, who wants to tear me down, who wants to possibly cause physical harm? Why should I love them? But you know what? It doesn't take any supernatural power to hate a person. It takes that Jesus power to love someone. Verse 32, Jesus said, "For if ye love them which love you, what thank have ye? For sinners also love those that love them. Pretty much what Jesus is saying is what makes us different if we are saved. If we do what they do when they're lost, what's the point of being saved? When Jesus calls us to love those who hate, he's calling us to do something that's totally contrary to human nature. It's easy to hate. But with the help of God, we can even love the most wicked person on this earth. I thought if we get back at them, they'll know not to mess with us anymore, right? What kind of person are we by doing that? Plus, like I've said twice already, we think revenge is sweet. That it's going to make us feel better. But guess what? Hatred does nothing but tear you down spiritually. It may help you, your ego. It may help your standing in society. Oh, he's a tough guy. He's a tough girl, or she's a tough girl. But it tears our relationship with the Father down. It destroys us physically. Scientific studies have been done to show the damage hatred does. Anger causes your blood pressure and breathing rate to increase, which causes a strain on your heart, making you more susceptible to heart attacks and strokes. It also can trigger headaches and lead to abusive behavior. It can break down your immune system and cause you to be susceptible to various diseases. Hatred does not help you in any way, shape, or form. Hatred can also destroy you emotionally. It wears you out. It makes judgment less, or makes your judgment less effective, leading to bad decisions. How many people have a little bit of hatred in their life? Yeah, we all do. It's something that Jesus brought up because he knew we would struggle with it even in this day. Of course, hatred, as I said, destroys you spiritually. We're told throughout the Bible that the essence of God is love. Now, in the Old Testament, yes, it was God's wrath. But when Jesus came and died for us, we were saved by the grace of God and we were taught forgiveness and love. The result of hatred will allow us to disconnect from God. And if we're in church right now, obviously we don't want that. Psalm 66:18, this is not on your sheet of paper, but it says, "If I have sinned in my heart, God will not hear me." Folks, there are probably a lot of us who feel disconnected of God when we have our highest peak of hatred. Anybody feel guilty after they feel a little bit of hate? Yeah. Have you ever noticed when you're angry at someone, it becomes the focus of your life? Even after the quarrel or situation is over, you're still thinking about it. It's still dwindling in your head. So how can we gain freedom from being imprisoned by anger? Church. The relationship with God. The forgiveness of God. For one, it has totally confused the one who hates because they're expecting you to respond in anger. When you are simply a person who kills people with kindness, even when you're done wrong, the other person's like, what? What just happened? I'm a Christian, that's what happened. The first response you have towards your enemy is to do good to those who hate you. The second response you're to have towards enemy is bless those who curse you. Verse 28, bless them that curse you and pray for them which despitefully use you. We've all heard the phrase, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I'm here to tell you today that is an absolute lie. Words are the most hurtful thing that people can use. That is actually biblical. They carry more power in life because that is the main way we communicate with each other. But the Bible tells us over and over the great power that words have that's in our speech. Proverbs 12:18, there is that speaketh like the piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise is health. You can cut someone spiritually based on your words. You can cut someone emotionally based on your words. When we choose to use our speech to lash out at people who have hurt us or harmed us, all we are doing is creating harm on both them and ourselves. Can you think of an example in your life when someone said that something that brought encouragement to you? You remembered that. It motivated you. But what about when someone tore you down verbally? It made you backslide. It made you take a couple. It didn't allow you to progress in life. Some of you may have experienced the wonderful joy of making a mistake that you knew would cause a spouse to be angry with you. Marriage is a lot of forgiveness. Marriage is seeking forgiveness. I'm sorry I did it. Well, a successful marriage is, right? You have to go to your spouse and you have to say, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. But if you go to your spouse with harsh words and cruel speech, what happens with your spouse? You tear them down. You abuse them emotionally and verbally. Words of encouragement can actually remove anger from a person. Proverbs 15:1, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. I really believe most of us probably would have fewer enemies if we just simply spoke to them the way Jesus would speak to somebody. If we loved them no matter what. If we truly believe that love never fails. Let me give you an example. A Christian lady owned 2 prize chickens that got out of their run and buried themselves in the garden of the lady's rude neighbor. The man was outraged when he saw the 2 hens in its garden. And he ran out, caught the hens, wrung their neck, and threw the dead chickens back over the fence. When the lady got home, she was pretty upset. That was her chickens. But thinking about how Jesus would react, she took those chickens. She cooked up some chicken pot pie. She had one for her, and she took the other one to her neighbor. And the chicken pot pie, he was shocked that she would do that with her own chickens. She said, well, they were dead already. Didn't matter. And he felt so guilty that he acted the way he did, that he apologized. And that he went to her and said thank you and actually bought her some more chickens. Being nice and going out of your way for a sinner who is filled with hate will do so much more help than it will harm. My third point, pray for those who mistreat you. Verse 28, bless them that curse you and pray for them which despitefully use you. The first response was do good to those who hate you. Second response, bless those who curse you. And those pray for those who mistreat you. Have you discovered that the people who mistreat you have a way of dominating your thoughts? When someone does you wrong, you can't get it off your mind. Whether you're thinking about revenge or you're just thinking about how could they do that, they completely control your thoughts. Not only do they do physical abuse if there's a quarrel, but they do mental abuse because it's hard to get our minds off what has happened. Have you ever been there before? Have you ever thought to yourself, why am I obsessing over someone doing me wrong? Jesus has a solution to that problem. You ask, what is it? You know what it is. we're supposed to pray for them. Even if you don't want to bring it up in church, raise your hand. I call on you. Yes, I have an unspoken. God knows what your prayer request is. You don't have to bring it up in front of anybody. You don't have to know. I don't need to know your problems in life. I just need to know what I need to pray for. And if it's an unspoken, God knows what it is. And when I pray for it, it'll get answered. He's referring to us praying, not that you hope anything bad happens to them, not that you hope the situation gets handled in a nice way, but what you are praying for is that they will have a change of heart, that anger won't control their life, that the way they react will never happen again, that God will consume their heart and respond in a positive way for a more permanent change. How do we deal with the problem? We don't pray for them, do we? We yell back at them. We may even give them the silent treatment. I've done that with the kids over there. They make me so mad I just ignore them. I sit there and they talk to me and I'm just like, Should I do that? No. I just have to pray for them when they say something mean or hateful. Do I correct them? You better believe it. But ultimately, I have to pray for them. Your prayers for your enemy can actually serve as a tool to keep you from being destroyed by bitterness, by anger. And your prayers can also serve as a net to salvage you from being controlled by your feelings. I'm going to finish or close with a story. During the building of a Golden Gate Bridge over San Francisco Bay, construction fell badly behind schedule because several workers had accidentally fallen from the scaffolding to their death. Engineers and administrators could find no solution to the costly delays. Finally, someone suggested a gigantic net be hung under the bridge to catch the people that were falling. Finally, in spite of the enormous cost, the engineers opted for the net. After it was installed, progress was hardly interrupted. A few people fell, but that net caught them. I'm going to tell you something. Prayer is a lot like that net. It will catch us when we fall, and it will save us from death. Romans 5:8, but God commandeth his love towards us, in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Just like we need God, your enemies need God. When you and I leave here today, the question for us is going to be, how are we going to respond to our enemies? If we're followers of Jesus, then we've been given 3 responses to help our enemy and to react and behave towards our enemy. First, we have to do good to those who hate you. Second, you have to bless those who curse you. And thirdly, you have to pray for those who mistreat you. Now, let me ask you a question. Can you think of someone who's mistreated you? Someone who's done you wrong? If you can, start putting into practice what you have just learned. Start putting into practice Jesus' commands. I know that sounds impossible, and I want you to know that it's not. It is impossible with your own power. But I love this verse. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ. If you are struggling, go to Him. Ask for help. Remember, a kind word turns any wrath. Nobody can be mean to a nice person. Will you seem naive? Possibly. But you're not sinning if you have a good heart and you're being kind to the person. Loving your enemy demonstrates in a powerful way that you belong to Jesus Christ. Let your actions back up what you believe. Let's close in a word of prayer. Dear Lord, I thank you for this day. I thank you for everything you do for us, Lord. Please let us continue in our walk in this Christianity, Lord, our walk with you. Let us leave here today and have better reactions and better words for people who may not be as nice to us, Lord. Let us have a good rest of the day and just bless us. In Jesus' name, amen.